So in the past couple of days, Christian Watson was interviewed and shared some updates on how his ACL recovery is going. He initially tore his ACL back in week 18, January 5th. And around the time that happened, his dad on X came out and said this: he'll have his surgery soon and should be back around week 12 with a normal rehab. There's nothing outside of what's typical with his injury. Simple ACL and minor cleanup. He's just doing usual pre-surgery strengthening prehab to get ahead of any post-surgical atrophy. He remains in good spirits and ready to attack this with everything he's got. So a couple weeks after he suffered that injury, his dad comes out and says with a normal rehab, he should be back week 12. And now here's what Watson said in an interview with Ellie French on WLUK. He said the recovery is going really well. I'm in a really good spot, keeping the mentality there, just working. I've got a couple more months ahead of me, but I'm attacking it every day. I'm in a really good spot. So the biggest thing there that stands out is the fact that he says he has a couple more months ahead of him. If that's actually the case, if he's going to be back in a couple months, which I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but if that were the case, that would be way ahead of schedule based on what his dad had initially shared about coming back around week 12. And week 12 is probably about mid-November to late November. And that would be about, 10 to 11 months from the initial time that he suffers injury, which is pretty common for players returning from ACL injuries. And so right now, mid to late November, that'll be about 6 months from now. And so Christian Watson at this point is a few months into his recovery. And if he'll be ready in a couple months, that's way ahead of schedule. So it sounds like it's good news. I think with ACL injuries, you never exactly know what could happen. I just always think back to David Bakhtiari here in Green Bay with all of his, ACL troubles, and there were thoughts that he was going to come back pretty soon, after the injury, a normal timetable, and then there were complications, things like that. And so I think, with Christian Watson's injury, it's one that you just sort of have to keep an eye on, sort of see how he progresses, but it sounds like things are going well at this point. And I think for the Packers, we all knew that with Christian Watson down, the Packers lost their most explosive offensive playmaker. It's very hard to find guys who are built like Christian Watson, 6'4", 4.36 or 3.7 40. There's just not many NFL players who are just as explosive as him and that have the size and speed that he does have. And so I think it was pretty clear that the Packers needed to add someone who could at least fill in that deep threat role where they had the ability just to beat people deep with their speed. And that's exactly what the Packers have got in Matthew Golden. They're much different receivers. Golden's much smaller, 5'11", but he does have 4.29 speed. And he's someone that in college in his final year at Texas was, top 10 or 15 when it came to deep yards. He was one of the best when it just came to his contested catch percentage on some of those deep passes. And so while he's not going to be exactly like Christian Watson, when it comes to size, he has that speed, he has that ability to get open, and I think he can do a lot more than just be a deep threat. I think he can win in lots of different areas of the field. And so I'm still really curious when it comes to the future of this Packers receiver room, because with Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson entering the final year of their rookie deals, the Packers and Doubs and Watson will have to decide if they can agree on some kind of extension. Do the Packers want to, or now because they did bring in Matthew Golden? That probably does shift things just when it comes to the outlook of this receiver room going into 2026. But at least in the meantime, it looks like Watson is progressing at a solid rate. And there's a few other things from Matt LaFleur. He was talking about his recovery, Watson's recovery. This is from Dominique Yates. He shared these quotes from LaFleur. He says, "He's been great. He's been outstanding." LaFleur said of Watson, "Just a great attitude. He's working hard. That's really all you can ask of anybody. He looks like a freak, like he always does, in a positive way." Packers coach Matt LaFleur said Friday when asked how Watson has looked. So things are sounding good right now. I think that, we don't always know the exact details of these injuries, and, hopefully that Watson can come back as soon as possible, because there's no doubt just having his, his speed out there, his size will be very, beneficial in this Packers offense. If you want more Packers news, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.